that address the concerns at hand while avoiding actions that could lead to further escalation. In conclusion, Somalia reaffirms its unwavering commitment to the nuclear weapon-free Middle East and a peaceful use of nuclear energy, in full alignment with Article 4 of the Treaty on Non-Proliferation of Nuclear Weapons. I thank you, Mr. President.
I thank the representative of Somalia for the statement. I now give the floor to the representative of Russian Federation.
Господин председатель, мы сегодня уже излагали нашу принципиальную позицию неприятия ни попыток европейских государств запустить снэпбэк, ни действий председательства в их развитии, включая внесение данной резолюции. Наша позиция на этот счет неизменна. Тот факт, что Российская Федерация проголосовала за проект, не должен трактоваться как ее изменение. Мы поддержали проект лишь по одной причине. Его единственный постановляющий параграф был о сохранении режима отмены ООНовских санкций в отношении Ирана. Это единственно верное, политически и юридически обоснованное решение, о безальтернативности которого мы говорили на протяжении всех этих лет. Логика, заложенная в СВПД, предполагала постепенную отмену всех ограничений в отношении Ирана, и по нашему твердому убеждению нет никаких причин, по которым они не должны истечь 18 октября сего года. Право, буква и дух СВПД, законы дипломатии и, наконец, просто здравый смысл говорят о том, что оказывать на суверенное государство давление путем политического шантажа и грубой военной силы, а все мы были свидетелями того, как Иран стал жертвой агрессивных действий Израиля и США в июне сего года, а затем пытаться додавить его санкциями по линии ООН, аморально, несправедливо и незаконно. Однако это именно то, что сейчас пытаются сделать наши западные коллеги. Хотели бы напомнить, что включая взаимодействие Ирана с МАГАТЭ, шло по плану ровно до того момента, как Соединенные Штаты в 2018 году пошли по деструктивному пути и официально вышли из сделки. Именно это стало триггером кризиса вокруг СВПД, последствия которого Совету приходится расхлебывать сейчас. Однако западные делегации старательно замалчивают этот факт. Несмотря на противоправные и грубые действия Вашингтона, Тегеран тогда проявил сдержанность и больше года, я подчеркну, больше года продолжал добросовестно соблюдать свои обязательства. Только после очередного витка давления на него Тегеран принял ответные шаги, регулярно при этом отмечая, что эти действия носили обратимый характер. К сожалению, наши европейские коллеги уже тогда не были заинтересованы в возвращении к дипломатии и не пошли по пути нормального разговора, шанс на который был в 2022 году, когда обсуждались параметры восстановления СВПД. Нарушение же Великобритании, Франции и Германии их обязательств по резолюции 2231 и СВПД уже давно приобрели хронический характер. Речь идет и об их неспособности соблюсти свои обязательства по обеспечению экономической отдачи для Ирана от снятия действовавших до 2015 года санкций Евросоюза и об их незаконном решении возобновить одностороннее санкционное давление после переходного дня СВПД 18 октября 2023 года. Наша страна неоднократно доводила до сведения членов Совета Безопасности свою позицию об отсутствии у Великобритании, Франции и Германии права задействовать процедуру восстановления санкционного режима СБ ООН против Ирана, предусмотренный пунктом 11 постановляющей части резолюции 2231. Сторона, не соблюдающая свои обязательства по какому-либо договору или соглашению, лишает себя права задействовать предусмотренные им инструменты. Об этом однозначно говорят так называемая доктрина чистых рук принцип пакта сун-серванда, консультативное заключение Международного суда. На этом фоне так называемое уведомление Евротройки о запуске снэпбэка, распространенное в Совете 28 августа, не имеет никакой юридической и процедурной силы. Оно не может служить основанием для каких-либо решений и действий Совета Безопасности. Данная позиция подробно изложена в распространенном в Совете совместном письме министров иностранных дел России, Китая и Ирана от 28 августа. Подчеркнем еще раз, с нашей точки зрения никакого запуска процедуры снэпбэка не происходит. Внесение рассмотренного сегодня проекта является прямым нарушением резолюции 2231 и СВПД, являющегося ее неотъемлемой частью. По этой причине Российская Федерация не признает ни якобы совершенных, ни никаких дальнейших шагов в этом контексте. Хотим напомнить, что реальная альтернатива происходящему сегодня в зале Совета Безопасности беспределу есть. Это лежащий в синке российско-китайский проект резолюции, который предполагает техническое продление резолюции 2231 на 6 месяцев при одновременном требовании ко всем изначальным участникам СВПД немедленно возобновить переговоры в целях поиска дипломатического решения. Призываем всех здравомыслящих членов СБ его поддержать, когда мы поставим его на голосование. Благодарю вас.
I thank the representative of Russian Federation for the statement. I now give the floor to the representative of China.
主席，中方支持继续解除安理会对伊制裁措施，对决议草案投了赞成票。同时，我要强调，中方坚决反对有关国家强推安理会启动快速恢复制裁机制，认为这种做法将严重损害政治外交解决伊核问题的努力。主席，造成当前伊朗核问题困局的根源是美国单方面退出全面协议，破坏全面协议的正常执行，恢复并不断升级对伊单边制裁，采取极限施压措施，致使伊无法享有协议赋予的经济红利，被迫减少履行协议义务。美国还置自身信誉于不顾，悍然对伊核设施发动军事打击，破坏由其自身发起的谈判进程。在这种情况下，英国、法国、德国援引第2231号决议，执意启动快速恢复制裁机制，对伊进行单方面惩罚，是不公平和不合理的。此举在安理会制造紧张和分裂，无助于各方重建互信、弥合分歧，不利于推动实现早日复谈的外交努力，甚至可能导致不可预测的灾难性后果，将多年来的外交努力毁于一旦。中方对此严重关切。主席，中方始终主张，政治外交解决伊核问题是唯一有效可行的选项，是实现持久和平的正确路径，这也是国际社会的普遍看法。当前形势下，我们呼吁各方保持冷静克制，通过外交和对话解决问题，避免重回制裁施压与局势升级相互交替的恶性循环。为此，我愿强调以下几点：一，要重视伊方努力，停止制裁施压。一段时间以来， 伊朗反复重申自身核计划的和平性质，强调无意发展核武器，克服遭受以色列和美国军事打击带来的重重困难，恢复同国际原子能机构的合作。伊方还多次释放愿与美方复谈的积极信号。欧三应客观看待伊方上述积极举措，立即撤回启动快速恢复机制，立即撤回启动快速恢复制裁机制的通知。二，要坚持对话谈判，摒弃武力威胁。武力不是解决国际争端的正确方式，也解决不了伊核问题。美方应反思退出全面协议、军事打击伊核设施带来的破坏性影响，积极回应伊方复谈诉求，承诺不再动武，尽快无条件重启与伊对话谈判，在谈判中解决分歧和各自关切。三，要着眼政治解决，塑造有利条件。安理会应发挥建设性作用，协助有关各方建立信任，弥合分歧，推动政治解决进程，谈判新的协议。中国同俄罗斯一道散发关于第2231号决议技术性延期的决议草案，旨在为外交努力争取时间，为政治解决创造条件，防止形势破局，陷入不可挽回的境地。这份草案还在桌面上，希望各方积极考虑。四，要秉持客观公正，妥善解决分歧。全面协议及第2231号决议确定的相关目标及措施，在下步政治解决进程中依然有效。要统筹核不扩散与和平利用核能目标。伊朗应继续恪守不发展核武器的承诺，各方应充分尊重伊朗作为不扩散核武器条约缔约国所享有的和平利用核能的权利。在相互尊重和平等对话的基础上，找到兼顾各方合理关切的最大公约数，达成符合国际社会期待的解决方案，将伊核活动完全置于国际原子能机构的保障监督之下。主席，作为全面协议参与方和安理会常任理事国，中方始终致力于伊核问题的政治解决和中东地区安全稳定。中方将继续秉持客观公正立场，努力劝和促谈，为推进伊核问题政治解决进程发挥建设性作用。谢谢主席。
I thank the representative of China for the statement. I now give the floor to the representative of the United States.
Thank you, Mr. President. The United States thanks the Presidency for submitting this resolution consistent with the Presidency's obligation under OP 11 of Resolution 2231. On August 28th, France, Germany, and the United Kingdom, the E3, each notified the Council of Iran's significant and continuing non-performance of its nuclear commitments. Their case was clear. Iran has enriched uranium well above the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, JCPOA, limits in a manner for which there is no credible civilian purpose. As we speak, Iran continues to not implement the IAEA's JCPOA monitoring measures and to not provisionally apply the IAEA additional protocol. The E3 could have initiated the snapback process as early as 2019. Instead, they chose to first pursue intensive diplomacy with Iran. Then, in July, the E3 offered to extend the snapback mechanism if Iran were to take steps to address concerns regarding its highly enriched uranium stockpile, comply with its IAEA obligations, and resume direct diplomacy with the United States. Despite suggestions to the contrary from Iran and others, Tehran has not yet realized those conditions. The United States therefore voted no on this resolution, and we are pleased that this resolution was not adopted due to not receiving the requisite number of yes votes. The practical effect of this vote is that absent any further action by the Council, the pre-2015 UN sanctions on Iran are reimposed following the end of the 30-day snapback period on September 27th. However, to be absolutely clear, our vote on this resolution does not impede the possibility of real diplomacy, despite any statements to the contrary. The UN provisions to be reimposed are not arbitrary, but instead narrowly scoped to address the threat posed by Iran's nuclear, missile, and conventional arms programs and support for terrorism. Their return does not preclude later removal through diplomacy. More importantly, President Trump has continued to reiterate the United States' ongoing readiness for a meaningful, direct, and time-bound dialogue with Iran, be it prior to the conclusion of the snapback process on September 27th or after. Absent a deal, it is incumbent on the international community to not accept Iranian half measures or efforts to delay accountability. We must, with one voice, press leadership in Iran to choose the path of peace and, by extension, prosperity for the Iranian people. I thank you.
I thank the representative of the United States for the statement. I now give the floor to the representative of Guyana.
Thank you, Mr. President, and we welcome the participation of the permanent representative of Iran in this meeting. Mr. President, Guyana has consistently maintained support for dialogue and diplomacy as the most viable option for addressing all concerns related to the Iranian nuclear issue. Indeed, it was through dialogue and diplomacy that China, France, Germany, Russia, the United Kingdom, the United States, and Iran reached the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, which this Council endorsed through Resolution 2231. Guyana recalls that Resolution 2231 affirmed that the full implementation of the JCPOA would contribute to building confidence in the exclusively peaceful nature of Iran's nuclear program. It also emphasized that the JCPOA is conducive to promoting and facilitating the development of normal economic and trade relations and cooperation with Iran. Guyana therefore expresses its regret that to date the plan has not been successfully implemented and consequently the goals of the JCPOA have not been achieved. Ahead of the expiration of Resolution 2231, Guyana urges the participants of the JCPOA to honor their commitments of resuming negotiations in good faith and to do so without further delay. We reiterate our support for the implementation of Security Council Resolution 2231 and the JCPOA and commit to working with Council members for a swift resolution to the Iranian nuclear issue. We further express our disappointment that despite their stated commitment to dialogue, the parties have not been able to resolve their differences in a manner that addresses the fundamental issues and the security concerns of all involved. We believe that dialogue should always be the first recourse to resolving any dispute or challenge between or among states. In this particular context, we are resolute that dialogue should involve all participants to the JCPOA. Guyana's abstention must be seen in this light. I thank you.
I thank the representative of Guyana for the statement. I now give the floor to the representative of Denmark.
Thank you, Mr. President. And at the outset, let me thank you, the Presidency, for presenting this draft resolution in line with the procedures described in Resolution 2231. I also wish to welcome the participation of the Permanent Representative of Iran to this meeting. Mr. President, 10 years ago, a landmark diplomatic achievement was realized. The Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, or JCPOA, demonstrated what is possible when political differences are set aside, when the international community unites in common cause. Regrettably, it has become clear that Iran has been in significant non-compliance with its commitments under the agreement for most of the past decade. This has been documented in more than 60 reports by the IAEA. On this backdrop, we are extremely worried about the fact that the Iranian nuclear program, with its accumulation of highly enriched uranium stockpiles, lacks any credible civilian justification and is unprecedented for a state without a nuclear weapons program. The suspension of the sanctions regime on Iran in 2015 was a key element of the JCPOA. As a European country, Denmark witnessed and supported the extraordinary efforts that the EU and European countries put into its negotiation and its implementation. We did so guided by a firm belief in the power of diplomacy. Today, that belief remains. Mr. President, the E3 have remained steadfast in their commitment to resolve the dispute with Iran without having to impose sanctions. Iran has been offered many opportunities to engage constructively to avoid the situation we're in today. Most recently, Iran has had nearly 2 months to address E3's immediate concerns, concerns that we fully share. Regrettably, Iran has decided not to do so. Our overarching objective is clear, to ensure that Iran will never acquire a nuclear weapon. Despite our differences, we are all united by this common goal. For this reason, Denmark decided to vote no to this resolution. Denmark supports the activation of the snapback as a consequence of Iran's actions and non-compliance with the JCPOA. In closing, Denmark remains fully committed to a diplomatic solution to the Iran nuclear issue. We encourage Iran to accept the conditions set by the E3 and urge Iran to return to the negotiating table in good faith. Our belief in diplomacy remains. We remain committed to reaching a negotiated solution to the Iran nuclear issue. This vote does not close the door to diplomacy, it opens the door for diplomacy. There is still time for Iran to change its nuclear course. We strongly urge Iran to do so. I thank you.
I thank the representative of Denmark for the statement. I now give the floor to the representative of Sierra Leone.
Thank you, Mr. President. I thank the Presidency for tabling this draft resolution in line with paragraph 11 of Resolution 2231. We welcome the participation of the representative of Iran in this meeting. Sierra Leone notes the geopolitical context within which the Council has been called upon to discharge its charter responsibilities of maintaining international peace and security and addressing threats thereto. We are mindful of the provisions of the Charter and international law that provide for lawful redress for internationally wrongful acts of states, including in this current broader context. On Resolution 2231, our position is principled and consistent. We uphold the integrity of the global non-proliferation regime. We favor the peaceful settlements of disputes through political and diplomatic dialogue. We call on all parties to act with restraint, uphold Resolution 2231, and support a credible path back to compliance. All JCPOA stakeholders should therefore take concrete and verifiable steps. We also invite all stakeholders to take measured and reciprocal steps that preserve the space for diplomacy and respond to verified compliance. We share the concerns expressed during consultations that moving ahead without restoring verification and clarity will not strengthen compliance. The Presidency's text would have decided that the terminations under Resolution 2231 remain in effect at a time of increasing questions and allegations over transparency and reported verification gaps. It sets no immediate path to restore monitoring, lower enrichment, or rebuild continuity of knowledge, nor does it address differing views among participant states on how procedures under Resolution 2231, including paragraph 11, should operate. Sierra Leone thus voted against this resolution because it was clear that it would not attract the support of the vast majority of Council members and did not provide a basis for achieving consensus. It would therefore not have contributed to improving security and stability in the region. It could have also narrowed the space for diplomacy by weakening incentives for verified steps towards compliance. Nevertheless, we stand ready to work with Council members and JCPOA participants to craft a balanced way forward that can command broad support. Early steps should include full IAEA access, practical transparency measures, and a clear plan to bring the program within verifiable limits, while establishing the right of Iran to pursue a nuclear program solely for peaceful purposes. Work should proceed through the Joint Commission, including use of the dispute resolution mechanism where appropriate, with timelines and deliverables reporting to Council. Mr. President, Sierra Leone supports the view that diplomacy is the way forward in this context. However, it should be tied to verifiable action and lead to tangible outcomes and good faith engagement. The priority now is to use the available period to restore compliance and reduce risk. Sierra Leone stands ready to engage with all members to facilitate this agreement while maintaining the authority of the Council. We will assess any new text by whether it strengthens verification, preserves space for diplomacy, and improves regional security. Our objective is clear: a lawful, proportionate, and diplomatic path that sustains the global non-proliferation regime, restores effective verification, and contributes to regional stability. We will continue to support balanced and constructive efforts that brings all parties back into compliance and strengthen international peace and security. I thank you.
I thank the representative of Sierra Leone for the statement. I now give the floor to the representative of Algeria.
شكرا سيد الرئيس. صوتت الجزائر لصالح مشروع قرار رفع العقوبات عن إيران المقدم من جمهورية كوريا بصفتها رئيسة مجلس الأمن لشهر سبتمبر. إن المبادئ الجوهرية التي استند إليها تصويتنا ثابتة وواضحة. أولاً، مما لا شك فيه أن الموقف المعبر عنه اليوم متجذر في القانون الدولي ومسترشد بالتزاماتنا الثابت أو بالتزامنا الثابت بالتسوية السلمية للمنازعات بوصفها حجر الزاوية في ميثاق الأمم المتحدة ومعلما من معالم سياستنا الخارجية. وفي واقع الأمر فإن أي بديل للتسوية السلمية للملف النووي الإيراني ينطوي على مخاطر جسيمة وعواقب مدمرة على منطقة الشرق الأوسط وعلى السلم والأمن الدوليين. وفي هذا المنعطف الحرج يجب أن يظل تركيز مجلس الأمن على صون السلم والأمن الدوليين أولويتنا القصوى. ثانيا، تأسيسا على ذلك، فإن قناعتنا راسخة من أن تطبيق ضغوط إضافية في الوقت الراهن قد يؤدي إلى نتائج عكسية، ومن شأنه أن يحمل مخاطر التصعيد التي قد تقوض الجهود الدبلوماسية. ومن هذا المنطلق نرحب بالاتفاق الأخير الموقع بين إيران والوكالة الدولية للطاقة الذرية بوصفه خطوة إيجابية نحو استئناف التعاون والوفاء بالالتزامات وإضفاء زخم تشتد الحاجة إليه في الجهود الدبلوماسية. ولا بد من التأكيد على أن لا حل عسكريا للملف النووي الإيراني. إن السبيل الوحيد القابل للتطبيق هو سبيل الدبلوماسية والتفاوض والحوار، وعليه يجب إتاحة فرصة حقيقية للدبلوماسية من خلال توفير الوقت الكافي للمساعي السياسية والسلمية. وهذا ما يقودني إلى النقطة الثالثة والأخيرة، وهي أنه بصفتنا أعضاء في مجلس الأمن وأعضاء مسؤولين في المجتمع الدولي يتعين علينا تهيئة الظروف المواتية لنجاح الدبلوماسية. إن الإجماع القائم بالفعل بين المشاركين في خطة العمل الشاملة المشتركة وأعضاء هذا المجلس على حتمية الحل الدبلوماسي يفرض علينا جميعا العمل بلا كلل للبناء على هذا الأساس المشترك بهدف تجاوز العقبات الإجرائية وتقريب وجهات النظر للوصول إلى الحل المنشود. كما أن تصويتنا اليوم يتسق مع قناعتنا التي ساندتها تقارير الأمم المتحدة وتقرير الأمين العام للأمم المتحدة أن سياسة فرض العقوبات تنحرف دوما عن الهدف الوقائي والاحترازي وتقع عواقبها على المدنيين. وهو تصويت ينسجم أيضا مع موقفنا من ضرورة انخراط الجميع الجاد وبحسن نية في مفاوضات من أجل اتفاق في المستقبل القريب إلى إعادة تفعيل إجراءات رفع العقوبات. ولهذه الأسباب مجتمعة صوتنا لصالح مشروع القرار المطروح اليوم. ختاما، ندعو جميع الأطراف إلى ممارسة أقصى درجات ضبط النفس وتجنب أي تدابير تصعيدية والانخراط في مفاوضات لتحقيق الحل الشامل وطويل المدى والملائم الذي يتطلبه هذا الملف. وشكرا.
I thank the representative of Algeria for the statement. I now give the floor to the representative of Pakistan.
Thank you, Mr. President. Pakistan voted in favor of the draft resolution. Our position on this matter has been guided by the following. First, the firm belief that all issues concerning Iran's nuclear program must be resolved by peaceful means through dialogue and cooperation. Second, the need to provide more time for diplomacy to succeed. Third, the imperative of avoiding a confrontation that could further complicate the situation. And fourth, preserve the framework of the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action and Resolution 2231 for reaching an amicable solution without a resort to coercive measures till such time that a successor arrangement or a new deal is reached. The JCPOA was a sterling example of a pragmatic and cooperative approach which charted a negotiated roadmap to comprehensively address the concerns of all parties by clearly defining the relevant obligations and responsibilities. Regrettably, the agreement was disrupted, leaving many complications in its wake that impacted the full and faithful implementation of the JCPOA by various parties and leading to mutual recriminations. Mr. President, the agreement on practical modalities for the implementation of safeguards in Iran, signed by Iran's Foreign Minister and IAEA Director General in Cairo on 9th of September, aimed at restarting agency's verification activities and inspections, was a positive development. The DG IAEA termed it, and I quote, an important step in the right direction. There is a need to build on this breakthrough to restore mutual trust and promote confidence between all the relevant parties that was seriously eroded due to the recent developments. Invoking the snapback and reimposition of UN sanctions could further complicate the situation, harden positions, and take us away from the objective of an amicable resolution of the issue. The current situation demanded more engagement and not a hasty reimposition of sanctions. That is why Pakistan favored a technical extension of Resolution 2231 for a period of 6 months to create space for political engagement and negotiations through a realistic and constructive approach by all the parties. We regret being put in a situation that confronts us today to vote on a clearly divisive matter when other avenues were available to avoid it, when other pathways could have been utilized to address the concerns harmoniously and cordially, allowing the Council to proceed with consensus, as it did with the adoption of Resolution 2231 10 years ago. President, as an immediate neighbor and friend of Iran, we do not favor any action which risks destabilizing a region that is already mired in multiple crises. This region cannot afford further tensions. We believe that even at this stage, diplomacy should be given a chance. There is an urgent need to renew and continue diplomatic engagement to seriously and faithfully address any outstanding issues in a cooperative manner in accordance with the rights, obligations, and responsibilities of the parties concerned. We must prioritize this approach and never give up on a peaceful, negotiated settlement. And let me emphasize that diplomacy and intimidation do not go together. Diplomacy has delivered previously, and with the necessary sagacity and pragmatism, it can certainly deliver again. We hope that the path towards a resolution of the underlying issues would not narrow down. In our view, it still remains available, provided there is political will to take it. I thank you.
I thank the representative of Pakistan for the statement. I now give the floor to the representative of Panama.
Muchas gracias, señor presidente. Damos la bienvenida al representante permanente de Irán, quien nos distingue hoy con su presencia. La República de Panamá, comprometida con el orden internacional basado en reglas, reconoce que la cooperación multilateral es esencial para abordar los desafíos globales y promover la paz y la seguridad. Nuestra posición se fundamenta en los principios claves de la política exterior panameña, que incluyen el fortalecimiento del régimen global de no proliferación, la preservación de la arquitectura multilateral y la promoción del diálogo diplomático como el medio más eficaz para mitigar tensiones y reducir riesgos estratégicos. En este sentido, hacemos un llamado respetuoso a la República Islámica de Irán a que se comprometa de manera plena y constructiva con el Organismo Internacional de Energía Atómica, retomando sus obligaciones y compromisos asumidos. Por ello, reiteramos que es fundamental garantizar el acceso, la transparencia y una supervisión efectiva para restablecer la confianza en que el carácter del programa sea exclusivamente pacífico. Instamos a todas las partes involucradas a priorizar la vía diplomática, ya que solo mediante el diálogo eficiente y la cooperación se puede alcanzar una seguridad duradera, sostenible y justa para todos. Muchas gracias.
I thank the representative of Panama for the statement. I now give the floor to the representative of Greece.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you for scheduling today's vote and for fulfilling your duties as presidency on a critical matter for international peace and security. I welcome the participation of the representative of Iran. I wish to make 3 points. First, to reiterate our concern on the scope and nature of Iran's nuclear program. I think it is something the majority of us agree upon. It is also the reason we voted against. Iran has still not sufficiently responded to these concerns. IAEA inspections, as provided in the JCPOA, have not resumed, and information on the stockpile of the highly enriched uranium has not been provided. Let me add that recent steps taken by Iran are welcome and a positive statement of intentions, but need to be followed by tangible commitments. Now is the time for meaningful engagement and a return to negotiations. Second, let me stress, therefore, that this vote does not mark the end of the road. Instead, it should be a departure point to redouble our efforts towards diplomatically resolving the issue and upholding the global non-proliferation architecture. Thirdly, Mr. President, with the high-level week coming up and with all the interested parties in the same room, now is the moment to talk and negotiate meaningfully. We believe that dialogue and diplomacy remain the most effective tools in order to arrive at a mutually agreed solution that addresses the concerns of all sides on a critical matter for international peace and security. An agreement is good for all, including Iran. This is not the end of diplomacy, but let us seize the current moment. I thank you.
I thank the representative of Greece for the statement. I shall now make a statement in my capacity as the representative of the Republic of Korea. 10 years ago, intense negotiations between the P5, Germany, Iran, and the European Union culminated in the unanimous adoption of the Security Council Resolution 2231, which laid out a path to a peaceful and diplomatic solution to the Iranian nuclear issue. The resolution envisioned a future where Iran would continue its civil nuclear program for peaceful purpose under strict adherence to IAEA safeguards, while the Security Council lifted sanctions and restrictive measures against Iran in a phased manner until 2025. As the Council President for the month of September, the Republic of Korea has made the best of its effort to ensure that the Council's work would be conducted in accordance with Resolution 2231. Accordingly, we held today's vote as it was designed when Resolution 2231 was adopted to secure its full compliance. Today's outcome is not the best future that Resolution 2231 envisioned. However, nothing is over yet, and there is still hope. The Republic of Korea would like to emphasize that now is precisely the time for intense diplomacy to achieve a peaceful and diplomatic solution of the Iranian nuclear issue. Resolution 2231, which has been our anchor for the past decades, is still there. And there is a chance to preserve the core tenet of the resolution and arrive at a better outcome in the future. Amid the eternal continuum of diplomatic efforts toward peace and security, the Republic of Korea, as the President of the Council, abstained from voting in hope for and encouragement of further diplomacy. I resume my function as President of the Council. I now give the floor to the representative of the Islamic Republic of Iran.
In the name of God, the compassionate and merciful, Mr. President, at the outset, allow me to express deep appreciation to Algeria, China, Pakistan, and Russia, who have rejected the politics of coercion and upheld the principles of diplomacy, justice, and law. We also commend Guyana for its courage in resisting coercion. Their vote today showed true commitment to diplomacy. Their position today sends a clear message. Conflict must be resolved through dialogue, not through the blunt instrument of pressure and intimidation. They have chosen to stand on the right side of history. Mr. President, Iran's position is clear and consistent. Resolution 2231 must be implemented exactly as agreed. Its timelines are not suggestions, they are binding commitment. Painstakingly negotiated and unanimously endorsed by this Council. Any attempt by E3 to reimpose sanctions already terminated is not only baseless, but a direct assault on international law and credibility of the Security Council itself. Resolution 2231 and the JCPOA were hard-won achievements after more than a decade of negotiations. They settled all concerns about Iran's nuclear program, confirming its exclusively peaceful character. Iran implemented the deal in full and in good faith. No other nation has ever subjected itself to such rigorous, intrusive verification by IAEA. We kept our words. The EU, E3, and US did not. It was the United States that unilaterally tore up the agreement in 2018, reimposing sanctions in open defiance of this Council. It was the E3 that failed to meet their obligation, hiding behind empty promises while quietly following Washington's lead and instructions. And now, in a striking display of hypocrisy, they claim that Iran must be punished for measures we took only after years of enduring their violations. Mr. President, we categorically reject the E3 notification of 28 August 2025. It is procedurally invalid, politically motivated, and legally void. By bypassing the CPOA dispute resolution mechanism, the E3 have shredded the very framework they claim to defend. Worse still, parties lying in material breach cannot suddenly present themselves as guardians of compliance. This is not legal or law. It is opportunism camouflaged as legality. Iran's remedial measures were neither reckless nor unilateral. They were calibrated, transparent, and fully consistent with our right under the JCPOA. To twist these lawful actions into a pretext for a snapback is to reward violators and punish compliant. Mr. President, this traversely unfold against the backdrop of blatant aggression. Iran's safeguard nuclear facilities have been attacked, not in secret, but openly, by Israel, a rogue regime, and by the United States, a depository of NPT. facilitates under IAEA monitoring were bombed in violation of every principle of international law and the very foundation of the non-proliferation regime. And yet, instead of condemnation, we witness silence, worse, justification from the very state now lecturing Iran about obligations. What clearer evidence of double standard and hypocritical behavior could there be? Despite this, Iran did not abandon diplomacy. On 9 September in Cairo, we reached an understanding with IAEA to resume cooperation, a significant and forward-looking step, but rather than seizing this opportunity, the US and E3 dismissed it, exposing the gulf between their rhetoric and their true intentions. They speak of dialogue with strangling it. They proclaim support for diplomacy while bearing it under threats. This reckless step undermines dialogue, rewards aggressions, and sets a dangerous precedent. Mr. President, E3 and the US, in coordination with Israel, are spreading false claims that Iran's nuclear program threatens peace and security. This is a fabrication. Iran has not breached the JCPOA, the NPT, or its safeguard obligations. Our nuclear program remains entirely peaceful. Even the impartiality of this Council has been compromised. The Presidency, under pressure from certain permanent members, ignored the requirement to take into account the views of all participants, including Iran, Russia, and China, before presenting today's draft resolution. This requirement is explicitly stated in paragraph 11 Resolution 2231 and even in the President's draft. Yet, in practice, the President of the Council disregarded this language, violated the neutrality of the Council, and effectively endorsed the E3 notification by both introducing the draft and calling for a vote, without ensuring that the positions of China, Iran, and Russia are true participants of JCPOA were fully reflected. This is not consensus building. It was coercion. The result is decision imposed on Council, not owned by it. In conclusion, Mr. President, I wish to state Iran's firm position. 1. Today's action is hastily, unnecessary, and unlawful. Iran recognizes no obligation to implement it. 2. The responsibility for its grave consequences lies squarely with the United States and the E3, who fabricated allegations against Iran while enabling Israeli criminal attacks on safeguard facilities. 3. This act, with no consensus, weakened the Council, undermines diplomacy, and jeopardizes the non-proliferation regime. 4. Iran's nuclear program will not be destroyed by bombs, halted by sanctions, or diverted from its peaceful path. The door for diplomacy is not closed, but it will be Iran, not the adversaries, who decides with whom and on what basis to engage. Mr. President, today's Council has squandered an opportunity for dialogue and consensus. Russia and China, acting in good faith, tabled a balanced initiative to extend Resolution 2231 and preserve diplomacy. Instead of embracing this path of reason, the United States and the E3 choose an escalation, pressure, and division. This contradiction between their rhetoric and actions prove once more their real intention is not diplomacy, but escalation. They must now bear full responsibility for the crisis they have manufactured. Let there be no doubt, Iran will remain steadfast in defending its sovereignty, its rights, and the peaceful character of its nuclear program. We will not yield to coercion. We will not be intimidated by unlawful threats, and we will not allow this Council to be misused as an instrument of injustice. Thank you.
I thank the representative of the Islamic Republic of Iran for the statement. There are no more names inscribed on the list of speakers. The meeting is adjourned.